Hi everyone! In the previous lesson, we have already discussed the definitions of goals and objectives. Today, we will continue by analyzing ways to formulate them. When formulating goals, the first step is to list all the possible goals you could have for your particular course based on your conceptualization of content, your beliefs, and your assessment of students' needs. The list may be erect, it may not be clear what is surely a goal or how to state it, and there may be repetition and overlap. So the next steps are to look for redundancies and to identify priorities based on your belief and your context. What's most important to you? What are the expectations of the institution, the students? Because all of the factors come into play, your goals will go through several drafts as you consider different aspects of the course and as you try to make the way you express them clearly. Once you have a list of maps in your goals, how do you organize them into a coherent plan? Teachers have found that different conceptual frameworks can help them to organize their goals. The first one is called CASA, which is an acronym for knowledge, awareness, skills, and attitude. The second one comes from Stern in 1992 and includes cognitive goals, proficiency goals, affective goals, and transfer goals. I will also introduce a third framework developed by Chinist and Lecture in 1996. First, the CASA framework was developed by the Faculty of Department of Language Teacher Education at the School of International Training and is used as a basis for an MA program goals. Knowledge goals address what the student will know and understand. These goals include knowledge about language and about culture and society. Awareness goals address what students need to be aware of when learning a language. This includes areas of self-knowledge, understanding of how the language works, and understanding of others' use of language. For example, becoming aware of the strategies used at learners, or the importance of extra-linguistic factors in communication. Skill goals address what students can do with the language. This is perhaps the broadest area encompassing the four skills of speaking, listening, reading, and writing, as well as the function and tasks one accomplishes through language. Attitude goals are those that address the affective and value-based dimension of learning. Students' feelings toward themselves, toward others, and toward the target language and culture. These goals include respect, self-confidence, and valuing community. Stern in 1992 has a similar framework for setting goals. He proposes the following categories. Cognitive means this goal includes explicit knowledge, information, and conceptual learning about language, which can be grammar and other systematic aspects of communication, and about culture, that is the rules of conduct, norms, and values. Proficiency includes what the student will be able to do with the language, like the mastery of skill or the ability to carry out functions. Affective include achieving positive attitudes toward the language and culture, as well as one's own learning of them. Transfer include learning what and how one then learn in the classroom be transferred to outside the classroom in order to continue learning. Let's have a quick check whether you can categorize all kinds of goals. We have a list of goals here, and your duty is to pause the video for 30 seconds to do the task. Okay, let's check. First, student will develop effective writing skill transferable to any context, so it should relate to proficiency. The second one, students will gain awareness of the influence of socio-cultural issues on the writing. So something about culture should be cognitive goals. Goals number 3 and 4 relate to confidence and appreciation, which are characteristic of effective goals. The last goal refers to ways to continue improving writing, so it should be a transferable goal. Another way to organize goals is described by Fred Chines and John Usher in the book Classroom-Based Evaluation in Second Language Classroom in 1996. Their framework includes language goals, which cover language skills the learner are expected to acquire in the classroom. Strategic goals have to identify the strategies learner use to learn the language. The socio-affective goals are changes in the learner attitudes or social behaviors that result from the classroom instruction. Philosophical goals represent the changes in values, attitude, and belief of a more general nature. Finally, method or process goals cover the activities learner will engage in. So in the book, the focus on language goal, we're gonna have be the main focus of the two authors because they are concerned with what can be evaluated by teachers. They suggest that each goal or objective should focus only on one skill or area. Reading or writing, not both, because objectives applicable to one may not be applicable to others, and students may attain one but not the other. To sum up, these are some guidelines to consider when formulating goals. Firstly, goals should be general but not vague. Second, goals should be transparent. Don't use jargon in it. Third, a course is successful and effective if the goals have been reached. Try this formula for your goal. If we accomplish, will the course be successful? Number 4, goals should be realistic. It shouldn't be what you want to achieve, but what you can achieve. It should be achievable within the time frame of the course with that group of students. Reminder number 5, goals should be relatively simple. Unpack them and make them into more than one goal if necessary. Tip number 6 is that goals should be about something the course will explicitly address in some way. In other words, you will spend class time to achieve that goal, not others. Now we move on to find down a way to formulate objectives. A classic work on formulating objectives is Robert Mager in 1962. On performance objectives, in which it suggests that for an objective to be successful, it should contain 3 components: performance, condition, and criterion. Performance describes what the learner will be able to do. Condition describes the circumstances in which the learners are able to do something, and criterion the degree to which they are able to do something. To these 3 components, Brown in 1995 asked subject who will be able to do something and measure how the performance will be observed and tested. For example, look at this objective from Brown and the 5 components below it. Students at the Guangzhou English Language Center will be able to write missing elements on the appropriate lines in a graph, chart, or diagram from information provided in a 600 words for the 11th grade reading level general science passage. So we can see that the subject is a student at the GLC. Performance here refers to writing missing elements in a graph, chart or diagram from the information provided in a passage. The condition include on a profit line 600 words 11th grade reading level general science passage. The measure to write the correct words that the observable part of the objective, and the criterion is that 100% they own the missing elements. The above approach to objectives is both useful and problematic. I find it useful for a number of reasons. First, it proposes that objectives should communicate clearly what you want your students to achieve, and it outlines how to make them clear. Second, the subject is stated in terms of those who will achieve the objective, and in the case of the course, that is the students. Teachers often fall into the trap of writing objectives from the point of view of what they will do, not what their students will learn. Another value Ed Brown points out is that the more specific one can be, the more useful and comprehensible the objectives will be to others. Third, the performance is stated in terms of something the student will be able to do. This is useful because it looks at learning as active and outcome-based. It heads off vagueness and lack of clarity. Brown provides an excellent list of performance adverbs drawn from Mayer and adapted from Roland in 1985. Mayer contrasts vague verbs like know, appreciate, and understand with precise verbs like construct and identify. The author finds the element of performance problematic because not all the learning is observable, and much of what happens in learning is unpredictable. Edmund Rice points out in his excellent analysis of behavioral objectives, if education is viewed as a voyage of discovery, the pre-specification of outcomes inherent in behavioral objectives may be seen as conflicting with the essential speculative nature of the education process. In describing criterion, one states the quality or level of performance that will be considered acceptable. This is useful because it helps to set standards and to hold oneself and one's students accountable. However, the criterion component was found the most problematic for a number of reasons. First, it may be impractical for a teacher planning a course to take the time to figure out the degree of specificity for each objective, and it may be unrealistic. One teacher who was designing a course for hotel employees formulated an objective in this way. Students will be able to read guests to the hotel with the correct use of time of the day, like good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and correctly respond to the standard greeting like how are you, nice day, 3 times out of 4. The teacher trying to include a criterion by stating 3 times out of 4. However, for the student, it would be problematic because even though they may reach the standard, they may fail at their job. What the student needs is not to be able to get it right 3 times out of 4, but to know what to do the 4th time when they don't get it right. An additional objective might be students will be able to use a variety of strategies for repairing breakdowns in communication. Another way to formulate objectives is to use a framework developed by Safier and Gomer in 1987. The cumulative framework includes coverage, activity, involvement, mastery, and generic thinking objectives. Coverage objectives describe the materials, that is the textbook unit topics, curriculum items to be covered in the course. Activity objectives describe what the student will do with the material. For example, fill out a worksheet or answer a comprehension question about reading. Involvement objectives describe how the students will become engaged in working with the material. For example, make up their own comprehension question about reading and give to peers to answer. Mastery objectives, also called learning objectives, describe what the learners will be able to do as a result of a given class or activity. For example, to use and describe two different reading strategies, generic thinking objective, which also called critical thinking objective, describe the metacognitive problem-solving skills the student will acquire. For example, to explain how they decide which reading strategy are appropriate for which text. In summary, these are some guidelines to consider when formulating goals and objectives. First, objectives should be more specific than goals. They are in a hierarchical relationship to goals. Second, objectives should directly relate to the goals. Ask yourself, will achieving X objective have to reach Y goal? Third, objectives and goals should be in a cause or effect relationship. If objective, then goals. Objectives should focus on what student will learn. For example, student will be able to write a term paper and processes associated with it, like be able to make an outline, not simply on the activity only, that is, the student will write a term paper. Tip number 5. Objectives are relatively short term, while goals are relatively long term. There should be more objectives than goals. However, one objective may be related to more than one goal. Don't try to pack too much into one objective. Limit each objective to a specific skill or language area. So goals and objectives gives a sense of the syllabus of the course. So objectives are like the building blocks of the syllabus. A clear set of goals and objectives provides a basis for evaluation of the course and assessment of the student learning. Both goals and objectives should be stated in terms of the learner. You may, however, have specific separate goals for yourself as a teacher. And just moving to the last one, your course may have 2 or 3 layer goals and objectives, each more specific depending on the length and nature of your course. The point is for you to have a clear and purposeful vision of your course. So those guidelines have marked the end of this video and the first half of this course. Thank you for joining me.